Okay, so the first book in this video is going to be The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This is the copy that I have. I think it is beautiful. It's green, although I don't know how well you can tell with like gold detailing. It's beautiful. One of my most beautiful books, in my opinion. So, from what I know, it's about an artist who either does a self-portrait or does a portrait of someone else and then slowly falls in love with this portrait, maybe, or something along those lines. I think it's supposed to be very, like, in his mind. I don't really know. I'm going to be honest. I'm pretty sure I read the synopsis when I was going to read this book, and then now I have no idea. So, the reason I DNF'd this, which it's not really a DNF in my opinion, but I wanted to add it in this video, is I was going through my personal library looking for something to read, and I decided to read like the first few paragraphs or the preface or the first page or so of books and find what I was in the mood to read. I never do that. I think this was the only time I had done that. I normally just pick up a book based on its synopsis, its summary, whatever, whether I'm in the mood for it, and then I just truck on through. But I went, read through the preface, and it sounded very interesting. It just wasn't what I was looking for at the moment, which is why I ended up not reading it. Now, the reason why I decided to do this video now and also add this into this video is I was on Fable, which is what I use to keep track of my books, how many books I've read the whole year, every month in the year, everything. And I joined a book club, and it's actually like a classics book club. I joined it last month, and they either were reading something and they were in the middle of it, or weren't reading anything and they're actually starting The Picture of Dorian Gray this month. It's June 1st as of me recording this clip, and they're slowly going through reading the whole book throughout the month. Like, we'll actually end the book or story, whatever, at the end of June. So I wanted to throw it in there because I've technically read the first few paragraphs, so it's kind of a DNF, but not really. But I wanted to add it in there. So yeah, I will come back when I have finished the story. Hello everyone, I have finished the book, The Picture of Dorian Gray. I did record a halfway point check-in, but I decided to not include it in here because a lot of what I said then does not still ring true. I had done a brief research at the beginning of or before the halfway point, and then I talked about it, and now I've done more research and realized that I was very wrong. So I'm just gonna explain the things that matter and then add some things that I want to add. So, first of all, I do want to correct what I said when I introduced the book, the first clip. I didn't mean that the receiver of the painting fell in love with the painting. I meant become obsessed, which is true. Basil was the artist of the painting, The Picture of Dorian Gray, and Dorian Gray received the picture of himself and becomes obsessed with it. So if you don't want any spoilers for the plot, in case you do decide to read the book, I'll probably put a timestamp where to skip to. But Dorian, when he sees the picture, comments on how horrible it will be, that the painting will never age, and he will, because Dorian Gray is a very handsome boy, and he basically sold his soul to stay young, and every sin or immoral thing he does shows on the painting. So the painting grows old and wrinkled and evil looking while Dorian remains young. That's essentially the story. And the story follows Dorian as he descends into moral decay, basically. He just becomes more and more and more immoral. So, there's that. Now, what I did want to tell y'all is when I started the book, I knew nothing of Oscar Wilde. I'd heard of him, I'd heard of the importance of being earnest, and that's it. Did not know anything about him, didn't know anything about his writing. So I started this book because it sounded interesting. The summary of it sounded interesting. So I started reading it. As I mentioned, I'm in an online book club, and the way that the book club is set up, you can comment on every single chapter. Whatever chapter you want to comment on, you can. So after I got done reading a chapter of the book, I would go and look at the comments. And I was noticing how a lot of people were saying that either Dorian or Basil or Lord Henry Wotton, who is like one of the other main ish characters, one of them liked the other guy. How Henry liked other men and he was just married because it was a big thing in the Victorian era. So a lot of people were kind of seeing homosexual undertones where I did not see it. And I was very confused by that. So I did some research into Oscar Wilde and the book. Very brief research, like 2 minutes tops, typing it into Google and reading. So Oscar Wilde was married to a woman. He had children, but he also had a relationship with a man. And so much so that he was imprisoned, or he was arrested for it and sentenced to 2 years of hard labor for it. And I also saw that the book, upon its publishing, was controversial, but not because of anything to do with Oscar Wilde. It was because the book was seen as not having a purpose. And that is what prompted Oscar Wilde to write the preface of the book, which talks about art for the art's sake and how art doesn't have to have a reason and a purpose. So to me, it was basically an artist being like, I can write whatever I want to, and it doesn't have to have a meaning. So that's all that I thought. So I kept reading. I was like, okay, yeah, he had a relationship with a man, but during that time, it was so illegal and looked down upon so much that he wouldn't write it into one of his books. Especially if he was partaking in those activities, like you would think if you don't want to get caught for it, don't put it in a book you're writing. That's what I was thinking. So I continued reading, and there was one conversation between Basil and Dorian after the picture is finished where Basil said that he had almost become obsessed with Dorian and that's why he wanted to paint him. Now, that could go both ways. When I read it, I was like, okay, maybe. But also, the book's writing is very, very heavily steeped in romanticism and aestheticism, and every conversation is very emotional and almost like theological, or not so much theological as like everything has a meaning, and like it's very steeped in romanticism and aestheticism. So, and it's a very romantic idea, in my opinion, that artists become so obsessed with their own art that they just like live for it. So in my mind, I was kind of like not wanting to see those underlying themes, but I also like, yeah, I can see it. Maybe Basil did like Dorian Gray a little bit, but also it could just be an artist being romantic, not in a I love you type of way, but in a everything in life is beautiful and everything has a purpose type of romantic. So I kind of wrote it off, continued reading the book until I got very nearly to the end, and I researched really 2 days ago. I finished the book today. I don't think I read it at all yesterday. So, and I read like 2.5 chapters today. So I was very close to the end of the book. I decided to do more research into Oscar Wilde and this book. So the book, when it was first to be published, it was in a magazine, I believe. It did have very homosexual themes. I don't know between what characters. Um and the guy that was putting it in the magazine either published it and then censored it. I think he censored it some and then published it. This Victorian Society hated it. It received a lot of backlash. So then I think they censored it even more and Oscar Wilde added to it, and then it was released again, but then everybody was like already mad about it. If I'm remembering and reading, like when I was researching, if I read it correctly and if I'm remembering it correctly, it was something along those lines. And the uncensored version was not republished until 2011. And as my book is in really good condition, but you can like see the yellowing pages. I don't think this book was published in 2011. So I think this is a censored version, which would make sense why I didn't catch. Actually, now that I think about it, I know for a fact this is the censored version because it has 20 chapters and the uncensored version only has 13. So I have a censored version, which is why I didn't catch it as quickly. So, yes, the conversation between Basil and Dorian was a bit odd, but Dorian kind of like wrote it off and threw it away. When Basil like confessed how obsessed he was while he was painting that painting. So, um yeah, and then I just decided to finish the book because I had a few chapters left and there was nothing in the book to me really that suggested anything like that. Dorian Gray, there were a few things that happened where maybe it could have hinted that he had relationships with other men, but Dorian Gray was also a bad guy in the book. Dorian Gray is the bad guy. Um so I don't know. I wanted to let y'all know if you decide to pick up the book, if you like found this video, wanted to like watch it, but you don't want to watch the review of The Picture of Dorian Gray, I just wanted to go ahead and throw that in here. It was not apparent in the book to me, those undertones, if they're even in this copy at this point after the censorships. And so much so that I didn't see it until I looked up Oscar Wilde's like background, and then I started kind of reading into some things a little bit more, I think, than I would have. And I was still holding on to the belief that he wouldn't have put it in a book given how looked down on that was during the Victorian era. And then I researched into it more and was like, oh, it is in the book, but I have the censored version. So, anyways, I gave y'all the information. Do with that what you will. Can't say that I enjoyed the plot. I enjoyed the idea behind the book. Dorian Gray does represent the effects of moral decay and living only for your own pleasure. And it's not good. So I enjoyed those parts of the books. It confused me with people saying that the book had some undertones that I wasn't catching, and I don't know. Do with that what you will. Um like I said, I didn't see it except for maybe the one conversation with Basil and Dorian. But you would also think that after the censorships, they would have removed anything they could to do away with the public scandal or the public hating the book. So, I don't know. I am going to do a review, probably not going to do a plot summary. It is a very short book and there's not much I could say for the plot. Like the plot summary would end up being like 5 minutes long. As much as I yap, it would probably still end up being 5 minutes long. So I'll definitely do a review. I'll say this again in case anybody didn't catch it in this video. Um but yeah, that is the first book done, and on to the next ones. Okay, y'all. Listen, the lighting and the angle a bit weird, but we're picking our battles, okay? Um I want to start this book tomorrow. I don't know if I'll get to film tomorrow morning before I start this book. So, I want to just go ahead and film it now. I'm sorry. So, the next book is actually a children's book. It is Pollyanna by Eleanor H. Porter. On the back, it says it's for ages 8 to 12. I do think I read it about 5th grade. I knew I read it in what my mom's current house is, and we had moved into that house the summer before my 5th year in school. So I was at least in 5th grade when I read this book, to my remembrance. Some of this is going to be spoilers, but I promise I'm not saying anything that is not on the back of the book. So, in this book, the girl, Pollyanna, her father dies, and she is sent to live with her Aunt Polly, who is very strict. And but Pollyanna is a very optimistic child, and she has a little game that she plays called the Glad Game. And the Glad Game is just finding the silver lining in every cloud. And she goes around the village making friends with neighbors and people that live in her little town, village, whatever. And she teaches them all this Glad Game. And she's also very fond of stray animals, and it says orphans on the back. I don't remember that part specifically, and she's just a very happy child that is spreading joy to everyone she meets when a terrible accident actually hurts her, and now she doesn't think she can ever be happy again. And everyone that she has influenced since going to live with her Aunt Polly comes to try to make her happy. And that's pretty much the extent that I remember. When I quit reading this, Pollyanna had gotten hurt, and I remember people trying to come cheer her up. Now, I remember all of that fairly well. The only thing that I remember that's not on the back, not a spoiler really, is that there was one particular person who was like the town curmudgeon or the town grump, and I forget exactly what happened. I don't know if it was an old man, an older woman. I don't know what happened, but they were like the town grump. Everybody knew this person was never happy. They're always yelling at kids to get off their lawn, like that type of person. And Pollyanna even goes so far as to bring cheer to this person. And I think the point that I got to, I remember that person coming to try to cheer up Pollyanna. Don't quote me on that. I'll actually let y'all know when I finish the book how right all of that is. But now, a little insight onto little Isabella. Little Isabella did not like to DNF books. It near about broke my heart to DNF a book. The only book that I remember DNFing in my elementary and middle school years was a book that had some psychic stuff in it. I didn't know about it until I started reading it. So I returned it to the school library, and it near about hurt my heart. Not really, but it bothered me that I had started this story and I didn't know how it ended, was really the main thing. So I would trudge through a book even if I didn't really like it, which I don't remember not liking a whole lot of books except for really little kid books. That's another story for another day. But um little Isabella also like to read like 3 books at a time. I could never. While filming this video, I'm gonna have to read 2 books at once, aside from my Bible, of course. And that is like about gonna drive me crazy. But I would read like 2, 3, 4 books at a time because we had to have AR books for school. My school did the AR program. We always had to have a book for AR and take tests on them. So I always had an AR book. My mom would take my brother and I to the library once every week, 2 weeks. So we'd get a couple books there. And then I also had a small collection of books that has grown very big as I've gotten older. But I had some books that were mine, and I like to read out of those every once in a while. So I would read quite a few books at once. And I think what happened is maybe I fell asleep reading this book, or maybe I just laid it to the side of my bed. And lo and behold, it fell in between the wall and my bed. And I did not find it for like months later. I was cleaning out under my bed and found this book. And I was like, oh, I never finished this. Like, I just completely forgot about it. It just like, I don't know if little Isabella wasn't conscious yet, or no, in all seriousness, I don't know what happened. So I never actually finished it. And yeah, this is one of those books that I could probably go the rest of my life and not finish, and it wouldn't bother me. But also, it's kind of gonna scratch an itch in my brain because I don't really know what ended up with Pollyanna. Although with it being a kid's book, I'm sure she became glad again. But it would be nice to go back and reread this book because I do remember absolutely loving it. I remember, like, for whatever reason, this is one of the kids' books that stuck with me that I remember really liking, and very few of the books that I read as a child I remember now. So I had to have enjoyed something about it, which is what's even crazier to me that I, like, dropped it in between my bed and the wall and just forgot about it. Like, how did I not think the next day, where'd my book go? You know? Anyways, so yeah, I'm super excited. I can probably get this finished in a day or two. Um, I could finish it tomorrow, but I think I'm going to be pretty busy. So if not, I'll definitely finish it by Thursday. So yeah, it's a very, very short book, very large font. It shouldn't be a problem. So yeah, let
That's
us
so
get into
weird.
it. Okay, y'all, I just finished Pollyanna. This book is so sweet. I loved it so much. I would, first of all, definitely recommend to any children 8 to 12. I'd say even older. I love this book, and I actually talked to Grace Lee Wednesday while I was in the middle of reading it, and she remembers reading this, and she really loved it. And I am not against reading children's books. They're often so wholesome, and I just really love this book. So yeah, I don't think I finished it. I don't remember the ending, so I don't think I actually finished it. I just don't know how close I got to the end. There's a part, slight spoilers, where Aunt Polly finally begins playing the game. And I don't remember that part either, but there's some parts earlier on that I don't exactly remember. So I really don't know where I quit reading it on accident the first time. It was very close to the end though, because I finished like the last 40 pages today, and the last, I'd say 20 pages maybe, I didn't read. So I was very close to the end. I definitely don't remember that last chapter. So if I did finish it, don't remember it. So yeah, man, I really love this book. And I'll get into it in the review more, but I found out that this is actually a series. It's got like 14 or 15 books, although they're not all by the same author, Eleanor H. Porter, the one who started the series. I'll go into that in the review, but man, I really loved reading this book. I remember enjoying it as a child, and I still very much enjoyed it, to the point where if I find any more of the series, I will read them and I'll review them on the channel. And I'll probably just put them all on a playlist. I would like to keep all of the series together, like uploaded like week after week. But in this case, I'm not about to go buy the rest of the 14 books. So if I happen to find any more, I'm definitely going to read them because this was so sweet. Yeah, I would definitely recommend. Once again, I'm going to go into it more in the review, but I quite enjoyed this book, and I'm glad I finally finished it. So yeah, let's get into the last book in this video. Okay, y'all, I'm back. Same day, same sitting, just a few moments later. So the last book in this video is The Promise of Breeze Hill by Pam Hillman. This is the first in a trilogy called like the Natchez Trace series, Natchez Trace trilogy by Pam Hillman. Pam Hillman is actually a Mississippi author. She lives not far from me. like I don't know her exact house, but like I don't know where she lives exactly, but I know the area she lives in, and it's not far, which is interesting. I've met her personally. She's actually signed all of the books that I have. And one interesting thing about this series is I believe in this one, the main character's name is Isabella, and then the third one, the male main character's name is Caleb, which my name's Isabella, my husband's name is Caleb. It's very, very cool. And I actually met her before we got married. And she was like, "Oh, that's cool." And she signed the books, and listen, I'm gonna be so for real with y'all. I have already read this series. But it was a DNF, and I decided months later to reread it, and I actually filmed the beginning clip before I started it, and it is actually on my phone that crashed. So we're not getting that back. But I'm going to kind of surmise what I said. I just want to be really for real with y'all. I've already read the series, and I know that I loved it, and I'm very excited to reread it, but it was still a DNF. So yeah. So this is a Natchez Trace novel. The trilogy takes place around the Natchez Trace in the 1700s, late 1700s. This one in particular takes place in 1791, or at least starts in 1791. And the female main character, Isabella Bartholomew. Okay, Isabella Bartholomew is pretty much kind of the sole caretaker of her family's plantation. Her father is still alive, but has been badly injured. And I think at the beginning of the book, pretty much bedridden, although, spoiler, over the series, he does get better. And she has to hire on some help. Now, during this time, slavery was a thing, but the Bartholomew family is very, very against slavery, so all of their workers are hired help. In comes Connor O'Shea, who is an Irish immigrant, and he moved to America, I think, years before, and now he has just found himself in Mississippi and is hired on by Isabella Bartholomew as a carpenter to fix up the plantation. And that's about all that I'm going to let y'all know. This is a romance story, and I have not been the biggest romance reader, but I've gotten into it more recently, and I really love this series. So, the reason I DNF'd this book was I was in a horrible, horrible, horrible reading slump. Worst reading slump I have ever been in. I DNF'd like four different books, maybe. I don't even remember. Like, I don't think all those books are on this list because I don't know what books I picked up and tried to read. Nothing was clicking with me. And this book, I read like the first few chapters and I just couldn't get into it. Which the first few chapters are really good. Like, they're pretty good. There's a literary term for like grabbing your attention. I haven't been the biggest romance reader, and I wasn't in a romance mood, and I'm very much a mood reader. Still tried it out, did not work. And the book that actually broke my reading slump was Skin by Ted Dekker, because it's a thriller, and I've been the biggest thriller fan for most of my reading, whatever you want to call it. I've Thrillers, mysteries have been like my biggest genre, I guess you could say, that I've read. So it makes sense that that is what broke my reading slump. But I come back months later, picked it up, loved it, loved the series. Um, and when I did the first clip, I I really just said that I was very excited to read it, that I had met the author, and I actually bought her books at a town like festival. A lot of the towns around here in the fall, like September, October ish, they have like a little fall festival type deal. It's just a little festival where a lot of small businesses and authors and people like have little stands and stuff. I don't know how popular it is outside of here. Like, I don't think every town has their own thing, but it's popular around here. I know towns have their little festivals. I'm very aware of that. I don't know. We have that. Like, a lot of the towns around here have them, and a lot of people will travel. Like, if you live in this town, you'll go to theirs, but then the next weekend is this town's, and then the next weekend is that town's. So I met her at one of them around here, and Caleb was with me, and he bought me this trilogy. I was very excited about it. Like, I kept thinking about it. We went and saw her stand and talked to her. She was very sweet, and walked around some more, and I was like, man, Caleb, those books sounded really interesting, and he bought them for me. Anyways, I was very excited to start the series when I reread them the first time, and I read the first few chapters, and it was a good, whatever that term is. I was not in the mood for a romance, and I was in a really bad reading slump. So I was super excited to pick it up the second time, and I'm very glad I did. Oh man, I can't. I love it. I love the series. So yeah, without further ado, we will get into it. Alright, I'm sorry I don't have my mics, but oh well. I just finished this book. It was so good, and I actually feel like I liked it more reading it the second time. I caught some like subtle foreshadowing, I feel like, the second time reading it. And I think the first time I read it, I actually rated it lower than I think I'll rate it this time. I don't know. I just feel like I really enjoyed it so much more this time. So if you're a romance reader, absolutely pick these up if you haven't already. Especially if you're in Mississippi. Like, I feel like not a lot of books take place in Mississippi, at least none that I have read. So it's really cool to see a little piece of our history in this novel. And when I talked to the author, she told me about how she really wanted to make the books as historically accurate as possible, and how she even researched into like the weather and stuff, because at the end of this book there's like a big thing that happens. There's a really bad storm, and she talked to me about how she was like trying to find big events that happened around this time period that she could write into the stories. So I don't have any personal historical knowledge on this era in Mississippi. As y'all may know by now, if you've watched a few of my videos, especially my 4th of July video, most of my historical knowledge is with World War II. That's where I found my love of history, and I'm just now trying to branch out. So I don't have much knowledge, but I have faith in her that this is fairly historically accurate. So this book was so good, and I'm so excited to pick up the next books. I'm gonna just go ahead and tell y'all, this is probably my second favorite out of the series, like my second favorite book, and I'll get into the next books later, but I loved coming back to this book and seeing how the characters grow, seeing how Isabella grows, and her relationship with Connor. That's the main characters in this book, Isabella and Connor. And I loved seeing their relationship slowly grow, and like I already knew what was happening. So like all of the characters, I just really enjoyed rereading this. And I think that's all I'm going to say for now. So, and I'm just going to go ahead and do my outro now. There's no point for me to film another clip. After this video, the reviews and plot summaries for all the books that I read in this video will come out. Don't think I'm going to do a plot summary for The Picture of Dorian Gray, but I will for Pollyanna and for this book. And I'm going to do this series like I did the Chronicles of Narnia. I'm going to read this one, the next 2 books in the series, release all 3 reviews, and then release the plot summaries for this series. So stay tuned if you're interested in this series. I loved it so much, and I will definitely go into it in the reviews and plot summaries. So yeah, that is it for now. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye!